Satnam, namaste, and hello. My name is Bonnie Lynn Sandler, and I am a yoga therapist, I am a mother, I am a teacher, I am a body worker, energy worker, and I specialize in trauma and grief and addictions and other forms of dis-ease. And the reason I say dis-ease is I would love to imply that we can come into ease and grace after surviving some sort of traumatic event, or many, and dropping at some point. I am going to show you a presentation that I did for an organization. I'd like to share it with you just to give you an idea of why yoga, why trauma, why they work together for healing. To share my screen with you. This technology is really fun. The first thing that I'm going to show you is a poem that I have enjoyed through the years by a Sufi poet named Rumi. It's called The Guest House. This, being human, is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, our meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are crowded sorrows who violently sweep through your house, empty it of its furniture, still treat them, each guest, honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing as you let them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each event has been sent from a guide from beyond. So that may not be the way that somebody feels in the moment, but let's honor the lessons that we may learn and bring to others as we go along. So we hold trauma and emotions on a cellular level. That's a fact. It's not deniable. Some of the teachers I have studied with and I really respect, leaders in the field, are Dr. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And one of the quotes that I selected was, yoga attends to the body and the breath, and attends to the stillness. It allows you to feel everything you feel, to tolerate every sensation, and to live and move with it. Yoga teaches us to endure that which we cannot cure. So we endure it. We can't cure it. I mean, we can't take away the trauma. It's happened, but we can remove it from the body. And Mr. Tom Myers, a very wonderful body worker, massage therapist, who I've had the pleasure to study with as well. The body impacts the mind as well, because we tend to hold unresolved emotional trauma in the tissues. It gets locked in permanently, creating patterns of thinking and behavior. It doesn't have to. We can work it through body work or through yoga. And Dr. Peter Levine, another wonderful pioneer of this field, Dr. van der Kolk's book, I'll discuss a little later, about the body keeps score. And Tom Myers is very famous for figuring out fascia, how we hold these issues in our fascia, this connective tissue. And Dr. Levine, one of his books is Waking the Tiger. So he says the old saying, time heals all wounds. It couldn't be more false. Time doesn't heal wounds, feeling does. So that's an interesting take on that. And trauma and the nervous system. So we have a nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. So it's basically independent of our awareness. We don't have to tell our heart to beat. We don't have to tell our digestion to take place or to breathe. It just happens. It's quite miraculous to me. And, our pupils will dilate and so forth. So this is the primary response of the control of the stress response. But when we get into the trauma situation, a chronic stress, then we become dysregulated. And the autonomic nervous system can damage the physical and the mental health, both. This is a lovely chart, and there you see a breakdown of the way the nervous system works. The CNS, is the brain, and this is where we have that thinking mind, sensory information, thoughts, and emotions, and the spinal cord conducts reflexes for us. And then the peripheral nervous system, and I'm not going to do too much detail, but the motor neurons, the sensory neurons, the somatic nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system. The one that's of particular importance here is looking at the two bottom boxes, sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. So the sympathetic gets us going into that fight, flight, or sometimes freeze response, whereas the parasympathetic division, or the PNS, rest and digest. So that counters the sympathetic. We are often just always in a oh shit situation, and we don't want to keep that for too long because it will make us sick. And that's that. So here's a lovely little graphic that I like it. It says we store issues in our tissues, and it shows me that. So looking at the anger, the fear, disgust, happiness, sad, surprise, then the neutral person, just having a good day or something, anxiety, love, depression, contempt, pride, shame, and envy. If you can, just like looking at the colors of each of them. So the happiness one is lit up with, joyful hormones and neural connections. This is the love. And it's kind of interesting that anger mimics that, and fear. Then depression is very, very different, isn't it? So that's something to consider. Somebody took the time to do these MRIs. There's science behind this, and that's a very salient point. After trauma, our inner world is different. Our nervous system is different. We look at the world differently. The energy becomes really focused on this inner landscape, this chaos that's happening all the time. And this, it's unbearable. It can be very unbearable. It brings physical symptoms. Some of the dyshyphonesis that we find is fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and autoimmune diseases. So it's really important to treat the trauma, engage the whole body, mind, spirit, the brain, rather than just going and talking about it. That's not effective. Here's a little more detail on the mind, body, and the spirit. If you think you've had trauma in your life, you may recognize some of these things as being true for you. Doesn't mean they have to stay forever. I like to bring awareness to the soul because it's often left out. A loss of purpose, hopelessness, questioning self-worth, like who am I, like why am I even here? And the mind, some typical things are flashbacks and dissociation, never thinking things will ever be okay. And the body is in this very, very wound up situation. And then to soothe that, there might be substance abuse. We don't know how to take care of that sometimes. And then there might be self-harm. And the body image can also be distorted. And there's more. That's enough, isn't it? So we know that yoga is the #1 evidence-based treatment for trauma. Dr. Bessel told me that. I was there at a conference that he presented to, about 40 psychiatrists, psychologists in their suits and with their books and their binders and their notebooks and their name tags. And I think I was the only holistic person there. And Dr. Kolk is a bit outspoken. And he just kind of looked at the room and he said to everybody, hey y'all, if you're not using some mindful movement, especially yoga, he recommends, then you might as well take your effing licenses and get rid of them. So that was an interesting day. But from there, they listened and they came to know this to be true. The issues do live in our tissues. We continually experience this trauma. Body becomes dysregulated. It's like flight, I'm out of here, or fight, hey, what are you gonna do? Or some people just become, the laugh factor just blank. Yeah. So we get overloaded. This anxiety is fluctuating back and forth, dysregulated. And that's not a comfortable way to live. So we don't want that for you. So the somatic component, the body component, is freaking important. I want you to please note that forever. It's not what is wrong with you, okay? It's not what's wrong with you. It's what happened to you. What happened to you? What has happened in your life? So that's a nice way to look at it. We cannot think our way out of trauma. We can't. Trauma is frozen in the body. We go into the survival mode and the energy is just trapped. It just is. Some solutions are to seek safety, connect with others, and feel those feelings. Relax and come back into the body when it feels safe. Feel the sensations in the body without cutting them off. And release the trapped energy. And I just said it like boom, boom, boom. And I know that it's a difficult process, but it's so worth it. Here's a little bit more about the body cannot tell the damn difference between physical and emotional danger. It just can't. The mind, body, and spirit cannot know. In the body, we can bring down the stress response. We can, this is through yoga, calm down the messages of danger and address the whole self. We are a whole person. We're not just a mind or body. We're something else too. Oh, yoga. Because you don't need to be a damn pretzel. Sorry. You don't need to be a pretzel to do yoga. That's not what it's about. It just isn't. And in our society, it's become confused with other things. So I'm here to tell you that yoga is not about the postures and it's not about pretzels. What does yoga do for us? It brings in self-compassion. It helps us to tolerate this thing called life. We can find a sense of safety and resilience, choice. The vagus nerve and the psoas play a big role in this. Both of those will be strengthened through this practice. Self-care builds neuroplasticity. We can rewire and rebuild the brain to its original state. Coping skills can happen. It complements therapy. It's a great thing. A lot of psychologists and psychiatrists, work with them. And it does naturally decrease cortisol. That's the number one hormone that kind of gets us into stress. Yoga also gives the body a chance to return to its normal state of rest. The impact of the fight or flight normalizes, and here we have an opportunity to heal. At HeartnSoul, we have a little saying, we are all healing, because we are. Grounding mind and body, breath aligned in present time. Mind and breath aligned in present time. So we can't be breathing into the past. We can't be breathing into the future. The past represents sadness. The future represents anxiety. So rest your mind. If you try to time travel to the past or the future, it's not going to work out. You got a database of the past and memory, and it doesn't feel good to remember certain things. And if it's historical, it's historical. We can't breathe in the past. We just can't, or the future. So this should be trauma sensitive and preferably yoga therapy. I'm a yoga therapist. It's an extended amount of training, and I highly recommend that you seek a certified yoga therapist, the IAYT. This evidence-based practice directly addresses these symptoms of trauma directly. The body awareness in the present moment. Yoga therapists who are trauma trained know about attachment theory and trauma theory in the neuroscience. Instead of going, it's not a regular yoga practice. Okay, there's lots of choice offered, effective action is offered. Language used in treatment is invitational. I invite you to raise your arm. I invite you to have a seat. It's not alignment based. It's not like do this, do that. And there's always the addressing of the mind and the connection to the body and the spirit. You'll be invited to feel the body in the present moment, guided through your practice, grounding practice, experiencing real time, getting power over your body, embodying your body. Okay, so feeling it again. A lot of people are dissociating and they don't feel their bodies and they don't like them. So this is an invitation to reclaim that. The breathing is so important. You might take a moment to become aware of your own breath and notice if you are breathing. Breathwork invites us to shift thoughts from negative thoughts to positive, impacting how we feel. Calming the central nervous system, relieving stress and anxiety. Of course, there are going to be physical benefits too. Strengthening muscles, diaphragm, the intercostal muscles. Those are the muscles between the ribs. It gives you a better mood, and joy and happiness will come to you. Confidence, self-image, and self-esteem get a boost. And this doesn't happen after one class, okay, or one session. It's a process. And here's a little chair sequence that is something that you would be welcome to do. Or we can do standing yoga. There's all different ways. There's also laying down yoga. There's all kinds of yoga, many, many forms. Kundalini yoga is one of my favorites and one of the most researched yogas for trauma and most forms of disease through Harvard University. And so I was working on a meditation, and I kind of put together two, these are prayers, but there's nothing religious about yoga. It's spiritual by nature. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in parting that we're imparted, it is in dying that we're born into this eternal life. And that kind of counterposed for me with the words of Guru Arjan through the Kundalini and Sikh tradition. Adi Satcha, it's been true for the ages. Jugada Satcha, Hey Be Satcha, Nanak Hosi Be Satcha. So basically it's true that we are alive, that there's truth. And coming out of the darkness into the light. And this meditation for peace can be found on my website, and any place you want to find it. I think it's on Facebook too. So that concludes kind of the presentation on trauma. It's a process, guys, and I want you to know that I'm living proof that yoga and holistic practices can treat trauma in the most effective way. There's always hope. I invite you to call me, to text 413-377-8888, 413-377-8888. I'm here for you and have training programs and lots to offer. You don't have to feel stuck forever. You just don't. Let's together, if you feel like doing that, just bring your palms together. Please inhale. Please exhale. Inhale. Exhale. May there be peace in your heart. May there be peace in your home. May there be peace in the world. Have a beautiful day. Satnam, namaste, and I just love you. I love everyone. Thank you for